Israel and many of its allies claimed that its military conduct in Gaza is entirely legal, as Israel has the right to self-defense. But what does this right actually entail, and how far does it go? Under international law, the use of force by a state against another state is strictly prohibited. An exception to this, however, is the use of force for self-defense. States have the inherent right to use force as a response to an armed attack as enshrined in Article 51 of the Charter of the United Nations and customary international law. Whether this right is also triggered in relation to non-state actors is disputed. In older judgments, the International Court of Justice rejected this idea. But since non-state actors began to play an increasingly prominent role in international security, therefore the general consensus among states and the UN now is that action can be taken against non-state actors as long as it is necessary and proportionate and the state from which the actor is attacking is unwilling or unable to take action itself. This is already hinting at the important fact that even when a state is defending itself, it needs to consider certain provisions. First, only grave attacks will justify self-defense. Next, the response needs to be proportionate to the armed attack, and peaceful and diplomatic means must have been exhausted. It also needs to be an immediate response to the attack, meaning that the state cannot decide to respond years later. Lastly, the response must be within the limitations of what is strictly necessary to defend the state, meaning that force cannot be excessive. Considering the extensive destruction and death Israel already caused in Gaza, it is questionable whether the response is proportionate. Another disputed aspect of this is preemptive self-defense. This describes a state attacking another entity because it fears an imminent attack from it. The UN Security Council has the authority to decide on the existence of such a threat and the appropriate response. Since this would not respond to an actual attack and therefore might not fulfill the requirements of necessity and proportionality, it is still heavily disputed whether preemptive self-defense is legal. When engaging in self-defense, the state must immediately report the measures it took to the UN Security Council and respect its authority to take alternative actions to maintain peace and security.